in this video, which is part 38 of the Coinmarketcap series for Chartjs, we're going to focus here on our chart here, or more specifically the skills tick mark. And you can see here the tick mark is showing, and if I zoom in, what will happen, you can see it will adjust itself and make sure it will add up additional tick marks based on the data we have. You might notice that there's like some dashed line here. This will be covered in the next video. Right now we're going to build just the tick marks itself. So now it's time to work on the tick marks itself. So if you look here, what we're going to do is, you can see here these items and they have no tick marks. And what I want to do is, I want to make sure we have tick marks on all of these items. And if we zoom in, we should adjust that with whatever the tick marks would be in here. So let's start to look how we can do this. So we're going to scroll down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new plugin. So first of all, I will register the plugin here in the configs plugins. Alright, so I'm going to put a comma here, and then we're going to say here, let's call this our custom tick marks as a plugin. Once we have this here, we're going to start writing it here. Then we're going to say here the custom tick marks plugin block, and then I'm going to say a constant custom tick marks equal, I'm going to say your ID custom tick marks, and then what we want to do here is, when would we like to draw these tick marks? Well, in this case, this could be here probably before we do the data sets. However, it doesn't matter so much because it's outside of the range of the chart area, so it will not impact anything at all. But I think that's a quite suitable option. So I say before data sets draw, and I say your chart arcs and the plugin options. And what we're going to do here, of course, is a object destructuring. So I'm going to say constant equals this. And again, if you want to know what's object destructuring, check out my video in the description box. So what I'm going to do here is, I want to get the CTX, I want to get the data, because the data will be essential later on. We're going to get the chart area, so for the positioning. And then probably because our positioning, let's think about where is our positioning. It's at the bottom itself. And then besides that, we also need the scale, and the scale specifically is the X scale here. So what I'm going to do here is, let's say a bottom. That's more than enough. And then I'm going to say a comma scales. And then we're going to grab here the X. And just for the sake of it, let's put an X and Y, so we have them both. So once we have this, we're going to start drawing the item. So I'm going to say here CTX dot. We're going to say save to save all variables above, and then we're going to say CTX dot begin path. So we're going to indicate we're going to create a new line here that's independent of anything else, so reset everything. And then what we want to do here, we're going to say color CTX dot stroke style for the line color, and the line color here will be we can just use the official color here, that is RGBA 102, 102, 102, comma 0.5. So we get this dark grayish color, similar to this here or similar to that one there. We'll have to see in that later on. Then what we're going to do here is we're going to say the thickness, and I will keep the thickness very narrow, 1 pixel only. So we say line width equals 1 pixel. So once I have this, what I want to do now is I want to draw the line, and I want to get the specific position. So I'm going to say here CTX, I say a dot, and I say move to, and the move to here, we will have the X and Y value. And what I want to do here for the Y value, where are we going to position it? Well, at the very bottom. So we want to be on this line here, the bottom line. And then for the X value, we need to calculate. So what are we going to do with the X value? Well, the X value will eventually depend on whatever the value would be shown on the ticks. So what we can do here is, first of all, let's put in a value. I'm going to say here the X for the X scale, and then say here get pixel for value. Alright. Once we have that, basically this is the Chartjs command, and the X here relates to this scale here. And then here, what I'm going to do here is we're going to grab the date of our array. So what I want to do here then is, I'm going to say here for the date, we can say here, let me double think what is the right item. We're going to say here, we create a new date object. We're going to say a new date object, and then this will be the dates array index 0. If I do this, save, refresh, do we see something? Apparently not yet. And the reason why we don't see anything is, of course, I need to say here ctx dot, let me just put it properly, dot stroke to draw it. And I realize I forget one more because I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to say ctx dot line tool, and the line tool is basically the same, except now we need to go in a vertical level. Vertical in this case means going down. We are here, but we want to go down, let's say 8 pixels. So I'm going to say here plus 8 pixels, save that, refresh. Now we have that one, and you can see here, if I zoom in very carefully, you can see here it will be based on whatever the item is. And if you might notice here, we have this dotted line here, and I see it as well here at the bottom slightly. We'll cover that later on probably, or next time, doesn't matter. Right now just focus on this part here. We have this tick mark here, but I want to make sure the tick mark will be matched on this one here. So how will we do this? Well, what we need to do here is basically, first of all, a for loop. So what I'm going to do here is not even a for loop, but a for each loop. So I'm going to say here, let's see, I'm going to say here, we're going to grab the dates array, say dates dot for each, and then what I'm going to do here is just very simple. I'm going to say here, the shorthand will be date, comma, index. I'm not sure if you're going to use the index, but I just want to have it in there, and if you don't use it, you can remove it. So then, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this part, put it in here, and you can see here what we have is the dates with the index. I guess we don't have to indicate an index because we have here the date shorthand that will loop through every item. So if I save this now, refresh, now we get it, but there's a problem here. And oh, there's a lot of problems here apparently. It's slightly stuck. Anyway, hold on, I'll just reload it. Alright, so somehow it crashed, and the reason why it crashes, what we need to do here, we have this for each item. What we have to make sure is we need to close the path, because we have here the line and probably somehow it connects to each other and has a huge problem. And I realized this save here, sorry, this should not be here by the way. That needs to be in here. We need to save that, and then after when we restore it, it will go back to its original saving state. So what I'm going to say here, ctx dot close path, and this is probably best as well to avoid any connections. And then next one is ctx dot restore, just to undo everything. If I save this, refresh, now there we are. So we've got this, and what we want to do now is we get all of these things. Even if we zoom in, we get all the values. If we zoom out, we need to modify this. So how are we going to do that? Well, basically we have already some of the work already done previously, but I'm going to reduplicate it by typing it one by one. So the first thing what we need to know is we need to know how many ticks are visible. So for that, I'm going to show you a very useful trick. I'm going to say here console log.x save, refresh, open up developer tab. Then here, what we really want to know is basically this here, and this is very simple. You can see here somewhere, let's search. You see here probably also the range. You might say that will be probably the one. It is fine to use this, just only understand with the underscore here we have one problem, and that problem would be if ever there would be a Chartjs version 4, they're probably looking at these underscore items to solve them, get rid of them, or rewrite those items. So those are like items that they might consider to rewrite in new versions. So I don't want to break that. So what I want to do here is I'm just going to get the min and the max value here, which are just in here, so that's fine. And you will see if, let me refresh this. Alright. And now I'm going to scroll, go down here. You will see that the min and max will modify itself. So now we have here a max value of that. And let's go here. Do we see here another max value? Max, min, and do we see any difference? Hardly any. Alright, doesn't matter. I'm going to show it to you in a code way because it's quite hard to see, and probably because of our mouse move and scroll, it will pick every movement. So what I want to do here then is, I'm going to say here, this. Let's see if we now change that. There you are. As you can see here, as I scroll in, it starts to change until we hit at the same value. So let's refresh that. What I want to do then is, of course, I want to grab that, and what I want to do is I want to grab the range of it. So I'm going to say a constant. You can say a start tick. And what is a start tick? It is basically the date dot index of, and the of refers to x dot min. So once we have that, we will get the official value in the array position. So we're going to say start tick, save, refresh. You can see here now we're starting at 0, which makes sense. Then as we scroll, it grabs the numbers. So this helps us, and of course I don't have to explain anymore. We can just copy this because we're going to get the max as well. We say here end tick, and this will be the max value. Once we have the max value, I'm going to say a constant, and we can say here the total ticks visible, which is the total ticks, and the total ticks would be the end tick, the highest value, minus the starting tick, which is the lowest value. And once we have this, you probably recognize the same item with our scale previously. We're going to do exactly the same here. So now we have that and there, and let's see, do we have that? You can see here we get a lot of numbers, and what I want to do is, if we are below 40, show the amount of ticks. If we're above 40, reduce the amount of ticks. Very, very straightforward. So what I'm going to do now is, in here we're going to create a simple if statement, and this if statement will say if, and we're going to say here new date will be based on date, which is basically this here, the date object from this. So we're going to loop through every one of these and say here will be equal strict to 1. That will mean that we get the full month. So then what I want to do is here I will grab only these colors here, or these items here, then indentation here, enter, enter. Then if that is the case, we should only see now September ticks, or am I correct? We don't see it yet. Alright, interesting. So we say if new date equals that, we should see this here with the date. And let's see, let me double check. So after some checking, of course, so why is it not working? Well, it's exactly the same, because this here shows us the full date object, and we don't want that. And remember, in the other code we had it as well. We say a dot get the date, which is basically the number of that specific day. So if I save that, refresh, you can see here now, or the number of that date, not the day number, because the day number is from 0 to 6, but this is from 1 till 31, depending on the month. So you can see here on August, this is 1st of August probably, you can see here, this is the 1st of August, 8-1 shows August. There we are. So now you can see here we have these lines here. So then if we have this, you know now already, the next part would be if the item is 10, or let's copy this, or 20, in that case save, refresh. Now we get this. So if I zoom in here now, you can see this works, but of course here we get an issue. And if I move this 10, 20, so we see 10 we'll get it, 20 will get it as well. However, we're still missing one item, final item. Let's copy this, put it in there, and then what I want to do is I want to grab here the total ticks, and the total ticks here you can put in this, and we're going to say if total ticks is below 40, in that case we're going to do that as well. Save, refresh. Now zoom in more, there we are. Let's zoom out, let me just make that more better, refresh. There we are. As you can see here now, this works very, very nice. So now we have this one, but what I still have to focus on is on that dash line here. Somewhere we probably forgot to close the path of it, and that's why it's now being transferred to other locations. But I will cover that in the next video. I'm going to fine tune that part.